Good morning, everyone. Today, I'll be presenting on Wireshark, one of the most powerful and widely used network analysis tools. Wireshark is a free and open source packet analyzer that allows us to capture, inspect, and analyze data packets flowing through a network in real time. It's extremely useful for students, network engineers, and all cybersecurity professionals to understand how communication actually happens between devices. By the end of this presentation, you'll know how Wireshark works, how to capture and filter packets, and how to analyze common protocols like HTTP and HTTPS. So let's begin. Let's begin with how Wireshark actually works. It captures data packets directly from the network interface card at the data link layer. Every time a data is sent or received, it travels through multiple layers. First through Ethernet, then IP, then TCP or UDP, and then the application layer. Wireshark records all of this and displays it in a readable, structured way. The tool supports both live captures and analysis of saved packet files, commonly known as PCAP files. It basically acts like a microscope for network data, letting you inspect what's happening under the hood. How do we capture packets? To start capturing packets, you simply open Wireshark and double click on one of the more available network interface cards, such as Wi Fi or Ethernet. Or you can go in the menu bar and go in the capture menu to do so. The moment you do that, Wireshark begins recording every packet that passes through that interface. If you're troubleshooting a specific website or network event, you can perform that action, like visiting a web page, while Wireshark runs in the background. Once you feel you have enough data, click on the red stop button in the top left toolbar. You will see a list of all packets captured during this session. Dissecting the captured data. The Wireshark interface is divided into three main panels, providing a comprehensive view of the network. When you look at the capture window, each row represents a single packet. Wireshark shows columns for time, stores, and destination addresses, the protocols used, and brief packet information. At the bottom of the screen, it displays the total number of packets captured. Since your network is constantly active with not only your device but also background applications, IoT devices, you'll see a lot of ongoing activity even if you're not browsing. That's why it's important to learn how to filter and focus on the relevant packets. Importance of the importance of filtering or the power of display filters. Display filters are applied to capture traffic, allowing you to focus on specific relevant packets without altering the raw capture file. Raw packet captures often contain thousands of entries, making manual analysis impossible. Effective filtering is essential for narrowing down the scope of traffic of interest. A typical Wireshark allows you to display filters to narrow down specific type of traffic you want. For example, typing DNS will show only DNS packets, while TCP.port is equals to 80 will display HTTP traffic. These filters make it much easier to troubleshoot specific issues or study a particular protocol instead of getting lost in the background data. Next, we have statistics menu, one of the Wireshark's most powerful analysis features. Under statistics, you'll find an option called conversations. This shows all the communication sessions between different IP addresses during your capture, displays how many packets were exchanged, how many bytes were transferred, and how long each conversation lasted. For example, if you open a website, you might see several conversations, one for the main page and others for embedded images or ads. This view helps us quickly understand which devices are actively communicating and how heavy each session is. Protocol distribution quickly determine which protocols are dominating network usage, example TCP, UDP, ISCMP, useful for anomaly detection. Let's move on to the next slide. Mapping network devices. Effective network analysis starts with correctly identifying devices on your local segment. Wireshark reveals two key identifiers: IP addresses and MAC addresses. To make sense of your captures, it's important to know that IP and MAC addresses of your own devices. That way, when you are analyzing the traffic, you can easily differentiate between your own system and others on the network. This is particularly useful in shared or public networks where multiple users are active at all the same time. Identifying familiar devices helps you isolate unusual or suspicious connections more effectively. Wireshark is an indispensable security tool. allowing analysts to detect or discover traffic patterns indicative of compromise or policy violations. Wireshark isn't just for learning, it is also used in cybersecurity for threat detection. For instance, if your computer is continuously communicating with an unknown IP address, that could be a sign of malware or a compromised connection. By looking at patterns in traffic, the frequent communication with unknown servers, you can identify potential phishing attempts or background data leaks. This makes Wireshark extremely valuable for prevention and forensic investigation. So how do we analyze traffic? So let's move on to analyzing specific protocols. If you type HTTP in filter bar, Wireshark will show you all unencrypted web traffic. You can see HTTP GET, HTTP POST requests, response codes, and even payloads in some cases. A really useful feature is follow HTTP stream. By right clicking on any HTTP packet and selecting that option, you can view the entire client server conversation in one window, including the request headers, response messages, and sometimes the data being transferred. This is especially helpful for understanding how browsers communicate with web servers. When it comes to secure communication, most modern websites use HTTPS, which runs on TCP port 443. They also use SSL TLS. While the data payload is hidden, Wireshark remains vital for analyzing the secure connection itself. If you apply the filter tcp.port is equals to 443, you will see all encrypted traffic on the network. While you can't read the actual content because it's encrypted, you can still observe the flow of traffic, the handshake process, and which servers are being contacted. This helps verify the connection is secure and functioning correct, even without decrypting the data. And you can even decrypt the data if you have the private key of the network. You can take the data and apply the private key and it will be encrypted. It will be decrypted. Custom filtering buttons. Wireshark filter system is extremely flexible. You can exclude common background protocols using various methods. But you can also make filtering very easy by introducing buttons into the mix. Since since you have fewer requests that you have to make frequently than others, you can take these requests and make this as a filter itself, and thus adding them as a button. This reduces typing errors, enables non-expert teammates to run vetted filters, speed up pivoting between views and live captures. Coloring rules. One of the Wireshark's best visual features is the use of color coding. Coloring rules helps you instantly recognize different kinds of traffic or errors. For instance, black lines usually indicate TCP retransmissions or problems. Red lines might show aborted connections, and green often represents normal HTTP traffic. These visual cues help you identify issues without even reading the detail of each packet. You can even modify these under View and Coloring Rules menu, which we'll cover more during the demonstration. Inspecting packet details, layer by layer forensics. When you click on any packet, Wireshark opens a detailed breakdown in the middle panel. It shows all layers of the packet, starting from Ethernet header to IP to TCP UDP to applications such as HTTP, DNS, TLS. Expanding each section reveals things like source and destination addresses, flags, sequence numbers, and payloads. This is where you can deeply understand how communication actually happens, step by step across the OSI layers. Following streams and summary. Reconstruct conversations. To wrap up, Wireshark's follow stream feature lets you combine all packets of a single connection into one readable conversation. It's a great way to study the complete data exchange between a client and server. Overall, Wireshark provides unmatched visibility into what's happening in a network, from low level technical details to high level protocol behavior. It's not only an educational tool, but also a professional grade platform for diagnosing network issues, investigating security events, and understanding how the internet really works. So let's continue with Wireshark in the demonstration. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So we will be continuing with the Wireshark demonstration. Let's get a little bit of a revision in. What is Wireshark exactly? Wireshark is a network interface, network sniffing tool. What is a network sniffing tool? A network sniffing tool is a tool that is used for capturing the packets, analyzing the packets, and keeping the log for them. You might ask, is Wireshark accessible? It is open source and free for everyone. So it is accessible for everyone to do so. So since capturing is such an important part of network sniffing tool, how do we start capturing? Either you can go in the capture menu here. You can start by capturing clicking here, maybe start capturing by clicking here, or you can choose a specific interface which I'll use here. So when capturing packets, one of the more important features you need to remember is for capturing packets, you need to have your NLC set to promiscuous mode or download a specific application in Mac that allows you to do so. Without that, you can't access packets. For example, I have opened this. Now what I'll do is I'll open different websites with different kind of protocols and everything else so that we can get a mix of different packets. What I'll do is I'll stop it here. So you can see we have different protocols, different length, different source, different destinations. So I have captured 780 packets, a lot of packets for 10 seconds. So what we'll do is, you can also see that there's different colors for different packets. Why is that? We'll discuss that in detail in a bit. Before that, I'll explain to you each of these menus. So file menu, as in every other application, is used for opening existing PCAPs, saving PCAP, maybe importing PCAP, importing like files from different sniffing tools so that you can access them in Wireshark, or maybe exporting your files so that they can be accessed in different other networking tools or maybe sniffing tools. Edit menu is for marking or finding packets. View controls how everything looks in your window, from number of packets displayed in a window. So like this, maybe the dimensions of window, everything else is in menu, view menu. One of the more important features of view menu is colorizing rules. So as we discussed, there are different colors. Why is that? Every color is because of specific conditions. So for example, if I have red color, it is red and black. That is because I have a bad TCP. As you can see, there are different colors for different kind of protocols and different conditions. You can even change these colors. So we'll close this. Now we'll move on to the next one. Go is for switching between packets. So for example, if I want to go to the last packet, I can just select here and I'll be in the last packet. If I want to go back to the first packet, I'll go back and go to the first packet, like that. So that is what go menu is for. Capture menu is for capturing. Analyze is one of the more important menus. What does analyze menu give us? So analyze menu, for example, if you want to see specific protocols, maybe specific things, maybe specific protocols from a specific port, everything can be handled via analyze menu. As you can see, you have different protocols, different features. So apply as a filter, conversation filters. So for example, if I do Ethernet, I'll see this. So I have a different device connected to Ethernet, and thus I can see this. So you can see all of that with analyze menu. Then we have statistics menu. What is statistics menu for? Statistics menu gives us how many packets were received, how many packets we sent, what is my configuration of my system and whatnot. Telephony menu is for multimedia files, digital files, maybe different kind of files rather than simple TCP or HTTP files. Then we have wireless for wireless. Tools is for scanning, what kind of scanning, how deep, how promiscuous you want to be while scanning, and help is for normal tools. We have discussed the basics of Wireshark, but why would you want to use Wireshark in the first place? So Wireshark is typically used either in ethical hacking, or if you want to check if your network has been, if there's been a victim of phishing, if there's any, for example, if I want to check if I have accessed any unsafe sites such as with HTTP. As you can see, this is, oh, I forgot to tell you, this is the display bar. This is one of the bars where you can access specific information without going into the analyze bar. So for example, I want to see if I have been to any unsafe sites. For example, if I have been into a HTTP site which is insecure, I can click enter and see. So as you can see, I have not been to any HTTP site or any unsafe sites, which is not allowed on my network anyway. So that is what Wireshark can be used for. It can be used for to see if there's any insecure sites your employees or people in your network have accessed. Maybe there have been any phishing attempts, or you want to just keep a regular check of where your information is being sent. Since we all know that via phishing, passwords, usernames, emails can be accessed and which can be used later for various malicious intent activities. You can also see I have these TCP and FTP. This is a button that I have created. For example, if I go to analyze and I do Ethernet again. So if I want to access this again and again, and I don't want to type this, which is a pain. So how do I do that? I click here and I'll get as a button. For example, I want to label it as demo. I click on it and click OK, and now I have demo. So for example, if I remove this filter and I have connected to different network, or I have been into different connections for a bit and I want to see, I can click here and I'll only see these. If you want to access a particular, you can double click on it, and you can get information about that packet, address, resolution, ethernet to, and so on and so forth. So that was it for the demonstration. Thank you. Close.